Welcome to Chasing Impact, Not Sales, where heart meets hustle, strategy meets service, and selling feels good again. I'm your host, Mandy Minatello. Let's go. Hey. Welcome back to the Chasing Impact, Not Sales podcast. I'm your host, Mandy, and I am very thrilled to be joined by Boo, who is the CEO of a 30-plus-year-old company called Afterburner that I think is probably the most unique and intriguing bridge to business that I've ever come across. When I am reaching out and talking with people and bringing people to share their story, I read his story and I only know a tiny piece of it, and am so intrigued and so excited to bring this to the audience of Chasing Impact because that's exactly what he's here to do. He shared with me he's just here to create that impact, to do what he has been made to do, and to share his insight. And it has had the blessing and the ability to do so for a very long time. So, welcome, Boo. I love that that's your nickname. And he said everyone outside of his parents and his wife knows him as that. So that's pretty cool, right? Right from the beginning. He is a fighter pilot, bridge to business owner, author, leader, and keynote speaker. And I am thrilled to be able to share the platform today. So, Boo, tell us a little bit about that journey. I opened up probably the most cheesy way possible when I first was introducing myself and said, all I really know about fighter pilots is that the movie Top Gun is cool. And so beyond that, he said, what he shared with me is just amazing. So give us a little backstory of the beginnings and the bridge to Afterburner.
It's not a short story, and it's a very long bridge. Let me tell you. You know, I think in life, I was only really intentional about one thing, and that was to become a fighter pilot, and that belief was instilled in me when I was about 5 years old, when I first went to an air show, and a lot of stuff happened for me when I was a kid and a teenager and in my 20s where if you read a lot of self-help books, it tells you you need this and this is what you do and this is a life of purpose, yada, yada, yada. That kind of just happened without thinking about it. And as I get, let's call it more mature, maybe a little wiser, I look back and I can see some kind of stepping stones along the way there that I think we all could be open to allow us to fulfill our potential. So here I am, 5 years old at an air show, jets flying around, super noisy, jet fuel, pilots walking in flight suits, helmets, oxygen masks. The whole thing for a little kid's pretty overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I think there's some sort of visceral experience there. And I'm like, yeah, it wasn't even like I want to be a fighter pilot. It's like, yeah, I'm going to be a fighter pilot.
That's so funny. Most kids are like, that's really cool. You're like, nope, that's me.
Yeah, that was it, and maybe some of that is kind of just weird kid energy. But that was it. And my bedroom was just full of posters. Every weekend or opportunity, I'd want to go flying. I was lucky that I had two uncles that were helicopter pilots, and back in those days when uncles and aunts had time to spend with their nieces and nephews, I'd go and live with them for a week or two. One lived out. My mum's side of the family is from cattle country. They're like ranchers in Australia. So I spent a lot of time with helicopters, mustering cattle on horses, running around. We call it you call it cowboys. We call them jackaroos, uh,
Wow.
which was a lot of fun. So kind of grew up around helicopters. I would ring up the squadrons and I would say, "Can I come out for the day?" And they'd let me sit in the crew room and watch videos. And so I was just all in. I started a business washing airplanes when I was kind of 14. I was out at airfields all the time. Then I started flying when I was 14, went solo when I was 15, got my license when I was 16. And yeah, I was just like, it's funny. I went to my 30-year high school reunion and everyone still remembers, even after 30 years, that I really wanted to be a fighter pilot and I was. And they're like, man, you're like the only dude at school who really knew what he wanted to do and then did it. Uh,
Love that.
yeah. So that then kicked off, 11 years of being in the Air Force and flying jets. That the whole process you take for granted. And what I realize now when I look back was I was put in a system that gifted me with the ability to be a growth-minded individual. I don't think I was like that when I joined. I don't think I'm naturally growth-minded, but the system that we use to plan missions, to brief them, to execute them, to reflect on them, it's called iteration. And when you approach life with an iterative mindset, which is basically think of it like this, using the words, I'm not there yet. I can be a
Mhm.
little bit better tomorrow. Like it opens up every tomorrow as more potential for good, more potential for growth, more potential to develop a new skill, learn some new information. So what happens is, they take kids off the street really with no skill sets at all, apart from, I joined literally from high school. I didn't even go to college. And they take that clay and then they mold it into these fighter pilots. It takes about roughly 400 missions of training, $15
Mhm.
million, dollars. Big program. But when you pop out the end, you're very good at kind of taking on criticism, being very aware of your strengths and weaknesses. And to be honest, at the start, you're mostly aware of all your weaknesses because it's a really hard job. Um, but the organization's built to effectively mitigate the failings of human nature. Yeah, what I observe as a in as someone that owns a leadership company, I'm not a coach, but I certainly get to be involved in a lot of organizations, is a lot of our human nature, which is geared towards survival, is the opposite of what we need to be to fulfill our potential.
Yeah.
Survival really looks at the world through scarcity, not abundance, and that everything I do, I'm kind of in it for me because the more I have, the safer I'm going to be if something goes wrong. It's a little bit like hoarding the nest, So
Right.
if I've got all the food and money and everything I need, if something goes wrong, and it's all very subconscious, so none of us realize that, the reason we want more is for survival, not because we want more, because we're satisfied with more. We're never satisfied.
Right. We're never satisfied. That's true.
Yeah. So, whereas being a fighter pilot, it kind of through necessity, it teaches you to enjoy the journey. So every day you do a training mission. And then when you're a qualified pilot, every day you fly a mission. And I think of this, I've been in sales for 21 years. When you're a business founder, that's what you are, right? You
Right.
have no choice. When you found a business, nothing exists. So you've got to build something from nothing. So you got to sell. So I've always thought the same thing is like, the way in which you approach a mission is the way in which you approach not even selling, helping people.
Hmm.
And every time you have a conversation, there needs to be a mission objective, and the mission objective is theirs, not mine. A little bit like a fighter pilot, the mission objective is not mine, it's the squadron, it's the formation, it's the squadron, it's all of ours. Uh,
Yeah.
so what happens is what you effectively do is you create these kind of chunks of giving something a go, like learning something, trying it. And then if it doesn't go that well, you reflect on it with the instructor at the end of the mission and they say, okay, look, here's what we set out to achieve. Didn't quite get there today. Here's why, or he'll ask, why do you think we didn't get there? What was going on in your brain? Which is
I love that. What was going on in your brain? People don't think about what they were thinking about. They just
correct.
look at the outcome and like it either happened or it didn't. I love that.
Yeah, this is exactly how we made an impact in the NFL because quarterbacks, players, they don't think about how they think. They don't think of the chain that leads up to the mistake. They just see the mistake and, oh, I shouldn't do that next time. So we're
Yeah.
very so we call it ORCA. It's this four-step process: objective, result, cause, and action. So really, what it means is, every mission we fly has an objective. We don't just fly around and burn gas and drop bombs wherever we want to, like Top Gun. Uh,
Right?
no, no, they were very mission focused. That was true what they were doing. And then the R, the result, which is after I've done something, there's going to be some sort of result. It's going to be good, bad, or maybe neutral. But no matter what you do, there's an impact of your actions, right?
Right.
There is no choice but to make an impact in life. The choice is what sort of impact you want to make in life. Uh,
Ooh, I love that. You have no choice but to make an impact. People
yeah,
act like we're just here willy-nilly. Like you're going to make an impact.
yeah,
It's
absolutely. And
shining.
I talk to folks in sales all the time on my own sales team. It's
Hmm.
like, look, you've got 30 minutes. Either way, you're going to make an impact. So choose a positive one.
Love
Uh,
it.
and what's important about impact is if you think of this Orca method, objective and result, the math is if you set an objective and the result is hitting it, you then make an impact. And when we kind of know what impact is as fighter pilots, when you hit a target with something, you make an impact and it goes bang. Um,
Yeah.
for many of us, we don't really understand what impact is. We feel like it's some sort of emotional kind of random event. But
Mm-hmm.
and the biggest reason we don't make impacts in life is we don't create targets. We just run around expecting to make impact, but we don't define the target that we're trying to hit. And that's why this debriefing is really good, because most of the time when we work with businesses or individuals, when they're sitting there and they're feeling stuck in a rut, they're not improving, they're not growing. When you hit the C of Orca, the
Mm-hmm.
cause is most often there is no objective. You're not, you didn't really know what you needed to achieve today. There was no like number and day and date and time. Um, and we say about 83 to 85% of businesses lack the clarity of the objectives to drive genuine execution. I see it in sales teams all the time. Just get on the phone, do the same thing over and over again. Just like, dude, where's the learning? Like, where's the
Yep.
baseline we're working from here, and the growth and the iteration and the you know the great thing about Orca is we use it as our sales technique because, like you said, it's not a script, but it's
Right.
a way in having a conversation where you ask the other person, "What does good look like to you? How's it going? Let's get curious together and understand the cause as to why you're not achieving what you want to achieve." And the most important part of the Orca process is the A, do something, the action. Uh,
Action.
so if you think of it, for me, I like my sales team to really do 20 low quality outreach, 3 high quality outreach a day. And every one of those is a mission and a debrief, which
Mm-hmm.
means you literally, if you do a 30-minute Zoom call, you're sitting there with a notepad afterwards running through the whole 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And the objective of that call, did you go in for a sale? Did you go in to enrich the relationship? Did you go in as a scoping session? But often it's just like, oh, who's in my database today? Oh, I'm going to give Jimbo a call. Hey, Jimbo, how you doing? How's the kids? And it's like you just literally burned 30 minutes of oxygen, right?
Right.
So, so for me, it's like the self-help industry is so enormous and so unhelpful in a lot of ways because think about back in the day when you went into a video store and you walk into the video store and you had to try and, Blockbuster, and you had to pick a movie out of the thousands of movies there. So when I see the leadership industry, the self-help industry, the personal development industry, I just see a lot of noise, right?
Yep.
And it's all noise because the individual hasn't created context. They haven't created a vision of what good looks like at the end of the year, the end of the quarter, the end of the month, the end of the week. And a little bit like when you tune your old radio in the car, probably half the people listening to this don't even know what this is, but
Don't know what you're talking about. I
yeah,
know.
back in the
Yeah.
day, you used to have a knob and a little bar would go across, all the frequencies.
Yep.
And then you'd have the snow, and then all of a sudden, boom, you'd hit a frequency and you'd have clarity. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's what objectives and destination thinking is. It's the frequency to reduce the noise, and uh, the fre the frequency has to exist. So if you're intentional, but you don't define intention like really objectively, you're just sitting there like just churning through the radio and just oh, there's the
Don't know
and
what you're looking for. Don't.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's with everything going on, you don't know what you need until you build some context of where you're going. So,
Mm-hmm.
so what's great about Orca is think of it as a context filter. So go big, go ambitious, right? I want to be
Yeah.
a billionaire in 10 years. Sweet. 10 years, that gives you 3,650 days. That gives you an awful lot of minutes and seconds. So let's start mapping every minute and second out. No one does that, right? That doesn't work. But that is how it works as a fighter pilot. We plan each day to the second because when you start to look at how many decisions do I need to make in a day, well, I probably need to make 3 or 4. But when you say how many decisions do I need to make in 60 seconds, well, I need to probably make 3 or 4. So all of a
Yeah.
sudden, three or four per minute multiplied by however many minutes on the mission, you unlock this incredible basket of decisions. And every decision is the moment that an idea incrementally moves towards reality, because it's not till you make the decision reality hits. So here you have an opportunity to get out of the, oh, I wish, I want, I hope,
Mm-hmm.
into I am, I see, I do. And you're able to really iterate from reality rapidly. Uh, and
Wow.
that's where you grow as a human. You grow based on reality, not on aspiration. Uh,
Right.
Nothing
I
happens
love
until you
that.
do something.
Like you were saying, like you're gonna see the sustainable impact, not from the short term, but from, you said think aspirationally, think huge. And
Yeah,
I've heard you say, I mean, you just passively mentioned you've worked with NFL teams. Obviously, you come from the fighter pilot mentality, huge leadership opportunities, sales, and what have you. But there's that connecting thread of longer term vision is going to create deeper impact than just what am I doing right now or what is the short term goal.
yeah. I think it's a balance of the two. I think when people use the word long-term goal, sorry, short-term goal, what they're really saying is busyness. So
Ah,
short-term goals are very important, but we say the words short-term goals, but what's actually happening is we're creating massive to-do lists, and we feel like doing something is a goal.
mm-hmm.
There's a whole bunch of little cognitive biases. There's one called the meta effect, where the mere act of thinking and planning and building a future in your head feels like execution. It feels like you're doing it. And therefore, you invest a lot of time projecting and you're not
Right.
actually doing the work. And we've all seen these people, right?
Mm-hmm.
We see it as, we do one-on-one executive coaching, and every 2 weeks you come in with a leader and they set their goal, and 2 weeks later that's literally the last time they looked at it was 2 weeks ago when they set it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and there's a really some fascinating studies into why we do this as a human. The one I love the most is a study called Just Think. It was done about 10 years ago. And in this study, they put people in a white room in a white chair all by themselves, and they just had to sit there for between 6 and 15 minutes and do nothing, just think. And at the end of it, they said, "Hey, did you enjoy that experience?" And largely, the feeling of that was not positive. It was like
No.
an okay experience. So the
Yeah.
researchers thought it was the environment. We always say change your environment. And they put everyone at home then and did the same study sitting on the couch. And they thought everyone would enjoy that more because you relax, just sitting, relaxing at home. But there was no marked change. People still didn't enjoy it. But one of the gentlemen on the study admitted to cheating and turning on the television. So
Mm-hmm.
that gave them an idea. And they thought, let's bring them back into the white room. But this time we're going to wire them up with electricity. And we're going to put a button on a table, and if we hit the button, they're going to get an electric shock. So before they came in the room, they said, okay, when you guys come into the room, you're going to sit down. There's a button. You're going to get an electric shock. How much would you pay us to not shock you? And they're like, I'll give you $5. Please don't shock me. And anyway, they walk in the room, they sit there 6 to 15 minutes, and 67% of men and 25% of women gave themselves an electric shock rather than sit there with their own thoughts. And 20% did it twice.
Wow.
So what you see here, and this is a human nature trait that is trained out of fighter pilots. It's because you can't help being this way, is we would rather be busy, even if it's doing something that hurts us, than to stop and think before we act. And
Wow.
this, you're particularly salespeople who, like me, suffer from ADHD, and they typically chase the dopamine hit, and they use selling like gambling. And I've seen this on
Yep.
people before, and it's like you're not doing the work to win. You're just doing a volume game and rolling the dice and hoping it comes up craps. Uh,
Yep.
and that's very hard to untrain in someone, because the high volume SDRs that go out and try and generate business, are driven by the dopamine hit, but the good long-lasting business is the opposite, where you've got to find joy in the nurturing, the farmer
Mm-hmm.
versus hunter, right? So there's ample studies and experience with where we see people be busy, but it gets to the end of the week and there's absolutely no results.
Right.
There's nothing, right? And then when you ask, okay, what did you learn this week? It's like, it's like there's literally zero commitment to the learning process. So if you take all that, this isn't a criticism, right? This is not saying anyone's a failure or anyone's a bad.
Observation. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a blind spot.
Mm-hmm.
It's a blind spot that the Air Force fixed 60 years ago because it was also a blind spot for fighter pilots. And it killed thousands of fighter pilots before we started to adapt into this new way of thinking, this iterative loop.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, boom, our performance jumped up 400% and way less people died. And we said, this is a good thing. And it became our culture. A debrief culture became the way we live. It's nameless and rankless, which means when you're together as a team and you've got to deliver some results or deliver an impact, you're completely open and honest with each other. You're allowed to call each other on their blind spots. You're not allowed to blame anything. It's all internal. And hey, what did I do? And what can I do to fix it? And the focus is on what's right, not who's right, which means I've got to have those objectives. I've got to have some binary outcome here
Mm-hmm.
because I know we've made an impact or not. Because impact, yes, done. No impact, no, missed it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
the easiest conversation on the planet.
I
But
love that.
instead, we get wound up in ambiguities. We get scared. We're afraid. We don't want people to think we're bad. We've built a society that rewards effort rather than outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
So but again, if you want to be successful and you own your own business, the great thing about this orca technique is it becomes a filter. And I'll be honest with you, the people that can't handle it, you, if you're in a high growth organization, you don't really want those people and they manage themselves out.
Yeah.
Uh, and this is the challenge. This is where it starts to get challenging because some people get so caught up in their, self-limiting beliefs that they can't step into the process that unlocks those, that gets them out of the way. The way that humans behave, it's like a chain reaction. So the way in which we act, the origins of our actions are our biases, which is the autopilot we've been that's
Mm-hmm.
built inside of us as a result of our lived experiences. There's like 188 of these that have been defined in psychology. So the biases operate at a very subconscious level. There's no awareness there, but they become aware through what we believe. So if we come from a broken home, we believe that it's hard to have good relationships. If
Right.
if we came into a sales role and we were never trained properly, we would consider ourselves as a bad salesperson. But so therefore we believe only that this is as good as I can get. I can't be one of these high commission sales folks. And then
Right.
we behave in a way which is I'm a bad salesperson, so I'm going to do bad
Self-fulfilling.
salesperson's habits.
Yeah.
So the way in which you reprogram a bias, though, is the opposite. So the way that a bias is programmed is in response to your behaviors. So let's go back to that orca technique. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the action that you take is a behavior. You're behaving differently because you're doing something different. So the more you debrief, the more you modify and update your behaviors, they become habits, they become discipline,
Mm-hmm.
that you start to believe things in a different way. I'm better than I thought I was. I can do this. I can't believe I just landed that sale. I had a
Yeah.
really, and it might be a step process. You may not get a result, but it's like I felt comfortable in that call. Like I felt on top of it. I wasn't reacting to the client. I was driving the conversation. And then your biases get reprogrammed. And the biases are important because there's 11 million bits per second of information going through the brain. We control about 10. So the more the
Mm-hmm.
biases, the 11 million is programmed in the right direction, the more you believe in yourself and you behave in a way that's supported by that belief. And that's what you need in a fighter pilot. I mean, you can't take an 18 or 19-year-old, put them in the cockpit of a fighter jet on day one and say, fly the mission and expect them to go, well, I'm a good fighter pilot. I'm
That's
competent.
scary.
You
They
know,
might think they're a good fighter pilot, but it's
yeah.
scary. Think of what you're really going to get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So think about it. It takes 2.5 years, 400 missions to be a
Right.
basic fighter pilot. And then it's another, lifetime of growth. What is it
Wild.
in sales? What's your background? What have you done before? Come on in, sit down. And there's no kind of growth. There's no
Yeah.
growth engine that sits in there. And even if you have no training, if you do the Orca loop and you debrief, even with nothing, you will grow. You will find the data. You'll go into the video library and you'll go to the right section because you know exactly what you're
Because you
looking
know
for.
what you're looking for. In this world of, I mean, like you said it, sales traditionally is high volume. Um, and I feel like AI has accelerated to some extent, like that expectation of now not only can a human potentially call 250 dials a day and all the things, but now we're going to accelerate that times five because we're going to put AI behind it. And it's even more of a volume game now and even more of a competition. Salespeople just tend to be naturally competitive, and pride driven and all of that. What would you like lay out as your guiding principles for a sales team that is in this sort of struggle, or for the CEO necessarily? What would the expectations, what would you challenge them to flip, so that they can keep the expectations of, obviously we need sales, but really empowering people through that mindset that you've discovered?
Two very different conversations with what I would say to a CEO compared to a salesperson, because I
Okay.
believe in the future those two roles are going to have very different impact statements.
Yeah.
I think we've made a bet, and everything's a bet because it's the future. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but we've made a bet in our business that machines will buy and machines will sell. And what we mean by that is everything that someone buys in the next 2 to 3 years will be through AI, will be through some large language model. They
Yeah.
won't use Google, they'll use a bit of Instagram, but by and large, it's going to be a prompt battle. So
Yeah.
we this is the way fighter pilots think, right? So every day you wake up and you're like, what's the plan for the day, and how does that line up with our plan for the year, right? You've always got to connect the two because it's real easy to get distracted and disappear off, right? So we kind of keep asking AI every day, what's going on in marketing, what's going on here. And sort of 6 weeks ago, our AI platform said, "Oh, we just did an audit on your SEO on your website, but Google's moved to GEO,
Now
generative
it's
engine
geo.
optimization,
Yeah.
right? Um, so you need to change your website." So the last 6 weeks, we've been rebuilding our website, right? And what we do is we create uh, personas that are AI agents of our ICPs,
Mm-hmm.
and they work automatically. They test the website gets updated, they tweak, they build new landing pages. And what happens is we've created machine bias because we've made a decision that a L&D leader who needs to buy a leadership development program is going to use AI to figure out what to use. Therefore, what are the inquiries? What are your problem sets? What are you typing into AI? And then we build web pages, which you can build with AI super fast, that answer those questions. So we're kind of looking at, well, the same as Simon Sinek and the initial TED talkers built massive business because TED Talk was new. Gary
Right.
V, he's big on social media because he was a first mover on Instagram.
Right.
There's a lot of successful people got the timing right. It's not because of who they are. It's just our right place, right time, right? So we're
Mm-hmm.
we're making a bet, which is right. We want to be at the front of the machine buyer, machine seller revolution.
Yeah.
So within sales, we've certainly experienced. We don't have any SDRs anymore for two reasons. One, it's a crushing job. It's a very, very difficult job in today's world
Mm-hmm.
because you have to do such an amazing amount of volume and have the timing just right because the buyers, they're not thinking ahead anymore. They're reactive. They're not they're an SDR would go out to an event manager. They maybe got a 3 6 month horizon. They're open to having conversations with people they want to discover. Now they're so dang busy. and they're running around being pushed around by their notifications, that they're just making spot fire decisions. And the likelihood of you being in the right place at the right time is very low. So
Mm-hmm.
we let go of our SDRs, which was like, hey guys, this is from a mental health perspective.
I'm saving you.
I just think this role's just not going to exist, you know. And you look at sell by DM. You look at the AI automation within your DMs now that can basically answer all those preliminary inquiries. You've got web chatbots on your website that do all the basic discovery. And then outbound, I don't know about you, but if a phone number comes up on my phone that isn't someone I know, I don't answer it anymore because you just,
Sadly, even if it is someone I know,
yeah.
it's still a decision, which is really sad about our world today, but it's true.
But
Yeah.
it's also the way that, we as humans, we communicate in text now, not voice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you and which is what AI does. I mean, it's
Right.
texting each other. So it's, you know, so I think sales is going to be, I think up until the point of someone parting with the actual money, I think that's still going to maintain human.
Yeah.
I don't think an AI bot's going to go, hey, here's 40 grand for a leadership offsite for a weekend. I'll take your money.
Right.
No. So I
I've
think it's,
always said that at the end of the conversion, the whole sales funnel, you can AI a lot of it, but at the end, it's going to be the relationship and the trust building in that final conversion, I
yeah.
think.
And I think
So I'm glad
what's
to hear
really
you agree with
unique
that.
though is you've got this kind of new role in sales. It's kind of like sarketing. It's
Mm-hmm.
like a sales form of marketing because marketing is not really good at that mid to bottom funnel
Right.
conversion. So, like we found this when we configured our chatbot is when people are on the chatbot, it's not marketing anymore. It's
Mm-hmm.
selling. And you've got to be really smart with the language and the way in which you ask questions there. So I think there's a great opportunity for RMs and you know relationship focused sales folks to be
Mm-hmm.
able to drive that part of the digital conversation. Like the
Yeah.
FAQ at the bottom of a page. What's the prompting? What are the clients ask? What do I know? And leverage off the relationships you already have
Yeah.
to do that. And I still think once someone buys from you and you do a good job, the human once they have your phone number in their phone, you're okay. I think
Right.
good old fashioned maintain the relationship. How else can we help? What can I do to serve? But that hunter killer sales role, I think, is done.
It's done. Okay. I love it. I'm happy to hear when I have people come on the podcast because I always want to know, like, what is your viewpoint of the world of sales and in this world of AI? I mean, I pride myself as being like try to stay cutting edge on AI and its role specifically in the sales industry. And there's so many people who are afraid, AI is coming after my job in every industry. And
Well, it is. I mean, that's like, let's get our head out of the sand. Sorry, just being a fighter
yeah,
pilot here. Um,
yeah,
it is coming for your job, and it
yeah,
will take it.
yeah.
We run a 15-person team with AI agents with only four people.
Right.
Um,
Well, that's what I
so
was going
there,
to say. You have to run it or it will come. Like, you got to accept it.
yeah.
If you're an SDR, how do you become invaluable? You just said it.
Well,
You
and this
accept
is
that
how
you're not
we.
an SDR in the world of 10 years ago, and the world of 10 years ago isn't coming back.
Correct. You
Yeah.
you want to be able to walk into a conversation and say, "Hey, I know you do outbound, right? Yeah, yeah. I can show you how to do that digitally. It's going to cost you a lot
Mhm.
less." But this is the challenge, right? And we also are we're walking into AI very open-eyed, which is if our entire business, which is knowledge based,
Right.
will cease to exist in 3 to 5 years. So we
Yeah.
have to move into a service based business. So I think I think there's humans being humans, we tend to really find the energy when it's too late, like we react, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there is a single executive or founder in the AI space that isn't saying there is going to be massive disruption
Yep.
in the jobs market. But
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to happen slowly. It's going to just hit. Like when you turn on an AI agentic workforce, it like happens that day. It's
Right.
not really. I don't agree with it. Like, don't get me wrong. I don't. I think it should serve humanity, not replace it. But I think if you approach it with the mindset that it's going to replace me, you're and then it doesn't. You haven't lost anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think I just saw the fighter pilot in your eyes when you just said that. You said, if I think it's going to replace me, I saw that like challenge, like it's on.
Yeah. But
You're
that's how
not
you
going to
have to
replace
think.
me. Let me figure out how. And that's what this workforce needs to do. And in any industry, no matter what you do. And I say this as a mother of a child in college and one who's, a sophomore in high school. So they're both like looking forward to a career. And I've challenged them both. Like, you can do whatever you want to do, but just think about how you're gonna rule the AI in that field, not let the AI chase you. And and there are some fields where I'm not gonna lie, it's difficult, and I wouldn't want them to go into certain majors because of that.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, my kids were tending towards business,
Mm-hmm.
but quite cleverly, I think. I don't think they thought about it. It just happened. Is they both morphed into the care industry. So they're in they're studying education, but also working as carers. And I think those jobs are bulletproof.
Yeah.
AI is never going to pick up an autistic kid and take them to a football game and spend time with
Wow.
them.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's not going to help somebody that's had a car accident and has brain damage and can barely walk or talk, but is fully functioning otherwise to build that human connection.
Yeah.
So
That's smart.
yeah. So I think ironically, there's an opportunity here for us to rehumanize because I think we're dehumanizing a little bit.
Yeah.
Technology dehumanizes you. I mean, it has to because it's very ones and zeros. It's not very empathetic or
Right.
so, and I think that's where let's think about the volume game of sales. To me, when I see people do it, it seems inhumane. It's
Mm-hmm.
that volume game. When people call me, "Hi, I'm so and so. I'm from loan. You've had a loan approved." I'm like, just eh. So
Right.
so here's this opportunity to really elevate into the relationship management and use the tools. Like today, you can literally speak to a client that you already know and go, "Hey, look, I built an AI agent for you that can answer any question you have about what we do in the context of what you need. And if there's something that you discover there that's really useful, I'm here for you." You know, you can create these AI agents that have all the knowledge, way more knowledge than you can remember about your company, and
Exactly.
and
The
and
brains.
can help support you in a sale.
I love it. I love it. Well, this has been so eye-opening, I think. Like, I mean, I'll be honest with my audience here. I saw him and read about him, and I'm like, fighter pilot, that's really cool. Worked with the NFL, that's really cool. I got to talk to this guy. But the depth of conversation has really been so eye-opening and so intriguing, and just it all comes down to, I love it how you said the RM, the relationship management in whatever you're in. You spoke about your children in the care industry, also across sales, leadership, obviously fighter pilot. It all comes down to real impact comes from thinking about what you're thinking about what you did and not just looking at the impact and or looking at the outcome, excuse me, or the mistakes. And that's how you create winners, whether it's winners in football or the 5 year old who says, I'm going to be a fighter pilot and actually does it so that at the 30-year high school reunion, his friends are still saying, man, you did that. And the salespeople who are going to still be winning in 5 years, regardless of what the AI iteration of that business and that industry looks like. That's amazing. So I thank you so much for sharing this because this is insight that I couldn't have predicted. So I love it. And if people want to know more about the Orca method, your keynote speaking, or connect, how can people connect with you?
My website's callmeboo.com, so that one's pretty easy. But if you
Yeah.
just type in my last name into an AI platform or Google, Boucousis, there is my family is the only Boucousis on earth, so you'll find me.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much. Do you have any final words for the audience?
No, I think, I like this idea of, just closing your eyes and just take a deep breath and ask yourself, am I existing on Earth or am I aware on Earth? And the difference is if existing is reacting, aware is responding. And to be aware, it's a little bit like, driving in the fog. Like you generally know there's a corner coming up. You can see a little bit ahead of you, but you're aware that instinctively something's going to change ahead of you.
Mhm.
Whereas reacting is like, oh, look, there's the guardrail. Oh my gosh, there's a turn coming, and you're constantly in a heightened sense of your nervous system's constantly firing, and it's exhausting. So
Yeah.
so to and the simple way to be aware is to use Orca, because
Hmm.
to be aware you need to have an idea of what you want in the future. To be aware, you've got to be honest about your reality. To be aware, you need to look back and ask yourself, how did I get here? And then you move forward. And that brings you to a new awareness, because now you've moved from what I thought would happen to what actually happened, and I can do something about it. So Orca is by design one of the most elegant and simple conversations, because it takes the future, connects it to
Hmm.
today, uses the past as jet fuel to drive you back into the future again.
I love that. I love that so much. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and for being here. And on behalf of everyone listening, thank you for your service, both in as a pilot and in business. And I really appreciate you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having me, Mandy.
Absolutely. Let's go. Thanks for listening to Chasing Impact, Not Sales. If this episode sparked something, share it, subscribe, and remember, real sales come from real service. Keep chasing impact.